get going, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Just wake us all up.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting of the Cloverdale Planning Commission to order. Pledge of allegiance. Commissioner Spangler, could you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could we have a roll call, please?
Roll.
Commissioner Acey?
He has an excused absence. He's out of town.
Okay. Alternate Commissioner Cox?
Here.
Commissioner Sanders?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Sprinkler?
Here.
Commissioner Wade?
Bill might be in the waiting room. He requested to attend.
Yeah, I don't see him yet, but I'll keep my eye.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Vice Chair Hoover?
Here.
And Chair Shanahan?
Here.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, agenda review, any changes, deletions?
No changes to the agenda, Chair.
Thank
Can you
you.
guys hear me? Is this working?
Okay, declaration of the conflicts of interest, seeing none. We'll open it up to public comment. Under this item, citizens may speak on matters within the Planning Commission's jurisdiction which are not on the agenda. The Planning Commission is prohibited under public meeting law from acting on matters that are not on the agenda. However, the Commission may take citizens' input under advisement, direct staff to place the matter on for future agenda or for discussion and/or possible action, or refer matters to staff for follow-up. Members of the public may comment on any matter not on the agenda. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody out there?
There's no speakers, that signed in to the webinar.
Okay, thank you. We have none in the chamber. So we will move on to consent calendar, approval of regular planning minutes from the September 7th meeting. Could I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
Sure, I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Okay, that was Commissioner Sanders making the motion and Commissioner Hogarth seconding.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the background?
That was Commissioner Sanders making the motion and Commissioner Hogarth making the second. Could we have a roll call, please?
Okay, I'm sorry, I still didn't hear who the motion maker was, who seconded the motion.
Commissioner Sanders? And seconded by Hogarth.
Okay, second was by...
Sandra Hobart?
Who was the motion maker?
Commissioner Sanders?
Sanders, okay, thank you. Roll call is going to start with, with Commissioner Sanders.
Aye.
Commissioner Waggy, still absent. Vice Chair
Commissioner,
Holbert.
we'd have Commissioner Spangler sitting in for Commissioner Waggy this evening.
Here.
Thank you. And Chair Shanahan.
Aye. And we need a vote on Commissioner Spangler.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, public hearing items, we have none. Non-public hearing side, sorry, so we move on to public hearing items, which is item number 2.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Is this working right? Or no?
Test, test. Hello?
Sorry about all the technical difficulties. It's part of life these days with our meetings. Is this working? Should be. Okay, here we go. So this item is a public hearing for the capital improvement plan. We're going to have a PowerPoint, and we have one of the engineers who helped get the plan together. Ryan Crawford from GHD. He has played a big part in getting our plan together. And the reason it's before the Planning Commission is there is a state law that requires that you make a consistency determination with the general plan. And why don't we just go ahead and get the PowerPoint going, and we can introduce Ryan, and we can go through the PowerPoint. We'll do our best to answer questions about specific projects if you have those questions. Ryan wasn't the key engineer. The main engineer was actually out of town tonight, but he does know a lot about the plan. So if you have any specific questions about projects, we can try to address those or get back to you. And also we'll talk a little bit about the findings that we're asking you to make tonight in the resolution for the recommendation to the council. So Yvonne, I don't know if you have the PowerPoint. I sent you the link.
Okay, let me check.
Chair Shanahan, are you seeing is it live on the TV?
The same screen.
Is that,
They're
okay.
the same screen.
There we go.
Okay. So the link you sent, Kevin, is it in the folder? Or is it in the packet?
Yes, it's in the folder.
It's in the folder, okay. So just give me a minute.
Ryan, do you want to kick it off when we get the PowerPoint going, and then Rafael and I can take over when we have our slides come up? Can you hear me? I don't think you can hear me.
Yeah, it's a little bit muffled coming through.
It is.
Finally on this end, I think both city clerk and I are having a challenging time hearing you guys, but I'll do my best. I can't really see the
David,
PowerPoint per se unless it's going to be brought up on our screens.
Yes, I'm working to bring that up now. It'll take a second.
Problem. No problem. Anyways, I can introduce myself. In the meanwhile, I'm a senior hydrogeologist out of the Santa Rosa office for GHD, and I work on various water-related projects in integrated water management, really throughout the Americas, but I focus, the Santa Rosa Plain and the North Coast. Start off my career up in the Eureka office 15 years ago. I grew up in Sonoma County. I ended up back here 10 years ago. And I work on various also CIP projects for other cities within Sonoma County as well. Sebastopol, Healdsburg. And I'm filling in for Ann today, as I think Kevin mentioned earlier. And we'll go through what we have, and like Kevin said, if there's anything that we can't address or doesn't satisfy your questions, I'll be taking notes, and then we'll get back, on any of that as soon as possible too. So.
Okay, I'm about to pull up the PowerPoint. It's coming up now.
Sure.
Brian, can you hear us better now, or is it still really muffled?
It's much better.
Okay.
Yeah, that is better. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, David.
You guys are able to hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
some reason it's not letting me share. It's up. Okay, here we go.
All right, thank you. This is the code.
Can you guys see the
We can,
PowerPoint?
can you do full screen, please?
full screen? Hold on 1 second.
It's the symbol in the lower right. There's a little symbol. If you hover on the lower right of the screen, you'll see, there you go. So there's like a little projector symbol down there in the lower right.
Projector symbol.
It's kind of by the plus, by the minus sign. And then you can just hit your arrows to make it go one way or the other while Kevin and I are talking, if you like. You see at the very bottom?
No, I'm not seeing it. Let's see.
The lower right hand of the screen, there's, if you kind of hover your cursor down there,
Okay.
there,
Full screen.
there's a plus minus, but to the
Okay.
left of the minus is a little projector symbol.
Okay, that must be it. Okay, there we
Sure.
go.
And then
Thank you.
the arrows will get you from one
Okay,
slide to the next.
gotcha.
Okay, so we did mention that the point of tonight's meeting is we're requesting that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution finding that the CIP is consistent with the general plan, and this is found in Government Code Section 6544. I won't bore you with that, but we did include in the staff report where we think it's consistent. And just to give you some context of what this is really all about is, you know, just say, for example, we were proposing in the CIP to extend sewer and water lines into an area that really wasn't zoned for residential growth. And we were, you know, running afoul really of where the general plan dictates where we want to see growth. So these projects in some cases support growth, in some cases they're, you know, older projects that we just need to complete in order to keep our system running. But the idea here really is to say, the state's really saying, okay, city, you're not extending sewer and water into areas that really aren't part of your urban growth boundary or your sphere of influence, thereby, you know, maybe encouraging leapfrog development or other things like that. So, I mean, that's really the gist of it. And I think we went through in the staff report and outlined a number of ways why we think that the plan is consistent with the general plan. And I know, Commissioner Holberts, you were asking about the previous one, and we did find it was adopted. The last CIP we did was adopted in 2011. So a CIP is really something that we would want to look at every year with our budgeting process. You know, there's a lot of projects in there, and there's projects that don't have identified funding at this point. But it's good to get them in there so that we're available for, you know, they could be eligible for grants and other things like that. They've been considered. So 2011, so we're really trying to get an adopted CIP through by the end of the year, hopefully, with the city council, knowing that it will be reviewed every year and it can be fine-tuned and tweaked for other projects that may come up that make sense. So next slide. So we did go through and talk about each section, the land use, circulation, noise, parks and rec, conservation, and public safety, and made our case why the plan is consistent. Much of the plan really is looking at infrastructure that's really aging and is older in town and trying to get a handle on that. And how these projects were identified was our previous Public Works Director and staff really just getting together, putting their heads together and saying, you know, the water and wastewater operators are very knowledgeable on the systems. They know what needs to be replaced. A lot of it's very obvious. We've got some stuff from the 60s. Commissioner Sanders, I'm sure you could speak to a lot of that. So that's really where it came from. A lot of the projects identified in the CIP. Next slide. So, and this will be my last slide, and then we'll turn it over to Ryan. But really, there's a resolution included in your packet that we're asking you to consider adopting, finding the plan consistent with the with the general plan. If you do feel comfortable adopting that resolution, we'll be bringing the CIP before the council, again, hopefully by the end of the year, so we can button it up. It's been in the works for a couple years. The council did get a full rundown on it a few months ago from Ann Lynch, another GHD engineer. So Ryan, I don't know if you're ready to take over and walk us through the CIP a little bit. That would be great.
Sure. Yeah, so really just, a capital improvement program overview, just really what's in them, what are the processes and really the benefits. Once you put a CIP together, it really contains, the list of your individual capital projects, that have been prioritized essentially, and, a list of assets and equipment needs along with your O&M and the major studies that support a lot of those improvements. And then a list of regulatory compliance requirements. And, the projects and needs generally are spread over a 5-year period. And, it provides the community really with, or a dynamic community really with the planning and fiscal management tool to coordinate the location, timing, financing, needs over a multi-year period. With the benefits being you're synchronizing your capital and operating budgets. You're really, systematically evaluating the competing demands for resources and based upon long-term goals and objectives of the city. And, you're identifying and prioritizing and optimizing your projects' needs and financing, like a pay-as-you-go or the federal and state grants and debt financing, for example. And really linking your strategic and comprehensive plans with your fiscal capacity and informing the public about the infrastructural investment that you're doing. So next slide, please. It is a process, and in developing it, you really initially want to go through all of your existing documentation. And so what was your previous an existing CIP, what may still be in there, your city construction standards and existing plans like the water and sewer master plans, various management plans like your pavement and urban water management plans, general plan. So you want to be consistent with those as you develop it forward. And you're proposing new development projects and of course, you have to work within the environment of your NPDES permit with your wastewater treatment plant and your capital and project funding sources. So within that, after you gather most existing documentation, you really want to go through and interview, the city staff who really know the most about what is there, what exists. And then you develop a preliminary list of your projects and needs. And you scope it out, and you develop the project and needs with high-level cost estimates. Not quite drilling down to the penny, but you really want to get the high-level what to expect costs, and then you prioritize and develop the implementation timelines for those. So that's the general process. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here's really just a summary table of the current CIP overview, and I don't want to go over, I guess we can go over them line by line or just see them in general right now. But so you can see the bulk of it is really in the water domain. And that's really where, the wastewater improvements and your source water supply improvements are getting the most priority on a 5-year and then 2027 and beyond timeline. Along with parks and landscape improvements, civic facilities, streets, and airport improvements. Okay, next please. Next slide. And this table is really just kind of just an overview of some of the details within those. Like the water improvements, they're going to include well 7 replacement. and really the associated year that we're trying to plan for. Rehabilitation of well 8 subsequent to that, and then the water master plan actually concurrent to that whole process. Like as you see in the well replacement in 2025, you have it concurrently with the water master plan. And then the Cherry Creek Reservoir rehabilitation is going to be prior to that, really in 2022 on to 24. Your Foothill Pump Station rehabilitation, the Del Webb Reservoir coating, which is on the 5-year beyond, and then the the water treatment plant chemical tank rehabilitation replacement, and the Ferber tank improvements, really in 2026. And so moving down really to the wastewater improvements, we've got the wastewater treatment plant upgrade to advanced water treatment. And as you can see, that's really still in the planning stage in 2027 and beyond. But the sewer collection master plan would also be concurrent with the water master plan in 25, as well as your stormwater. So really a lot of the water master planning, we're doing them concurrently. Makes a lot more sense anyways. A lot of them relate to each other. And, each one of these CIPs has or detailed sheets on the logic behind it and the development from the city's needs perspective. So you can see, really, in the categories of columns, if you're mandated and necessary, really CIPs versus desirable, it's 2/3 of them are really mandated or necessary of this total of 65 projects, just, for perspective. Next, please. So yeah, and then, how is it providing linkages with other efforts? It's really, a CAP is really consistent with the water and wastewater rate case, but it has the new well study that would really investigate siting in areas away from your surface groundwater influence intake, due to the sigma and drought and new regulations coming from the state. That right there is going to try and provide more resiliency and diversity of the source water supply from the city. An additional study of your tertiary treatment, and to potentially position for the state revolving fund, the SRF, which is where a bulk of a lot of funding comes from in grants to cover CIPs like this. And then out-year funding beyond rate case time periods. And so it's really consistent with existing planning documents to meet existing city infrastructure needs. And the Planning Commission has reviewed and commented on the CIP. Next, please. So next steps forward really, is request really the Planning Commission to review for finding of consistency with the general plan. Then incorporating comments and finalizing that draft CIP. And then, holding the public hearings, getting through that, and then finalizing it. And then bring it to City Council for approval. And then identify opportunities. One thing I didn't mention was, there's also the emergency funding realms too, besides your state revolving. Those are your main funding mechanisms right now. Next, please. I hope you can hear me okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then,
Yeah.
Kevin, were you going to jump in?
Yeah.
Or
Thank
go
you,
for
Ryan.
questions right now? Yeah.
I'm not sure, Commissioner Waggy did submit a couple of comments. I can let you guys know what those were. He was interested in having electric vehicle charging included in the capital improvement plan, which, may be a good idea. We can look into that, or we can, when we look at the plan with the budget every year, we could include it then. And there are other sources of funding and ways to get those, but I thought that was a pretty good comment. There is a comment about one of the wells not how it was being funded, and well 8, I believe it is scheduled to be paid for using development impact fees. So he made a comment about that. And then there was some comment about West 4th Street, which is actually a project that's in the CIP, which is currently out to bid, or actually it's more than out to bid. We're signing papers now to get that project underway. I think it was just a little confusing that it was in there, but it's actually has already been started. So I think that covers his comments. So I don't know if we can open it up to questions and see if there's any, do you want to open it to public questions or planning commission questions now, Chair?
Well, we can open it up to the public first to see if we have any.
I don't see any hands from the public.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then we can bring it back to the commission. And do you have any questions on the report? Anything, any clarification on?
I do have some questions. I'll just go with the easy step list. Can you talk about this sheet, the project detail form, and talk about the justification? Because it has a section for justification, and I noticed that some of them had it, and then there was a lot of them that didn't have anything. And also you have a section here for general plan consistency, and you also have funding sources here. And I wasn't sure, like, I know funding's not what we're here for, but is this sheet that we completed when it's coming to the city council? How does that work?
Brian, I don't know if you want to answer that, but I can tell you that funding hasn't been identified for many of these projects. Some there is not funding. The general plan consistency would be filled in before the city council. That's kind of what we're here talking about now. And what was, the justification? Brian, I don't know if you have any insight in are you having trouble hearing us again?
Oh, no, I mean, a little bit, it's a little bit muffled. The question was a little muffled, so I was trying to figure out
Okay.
which particular detail that you were looking for clarification on justification for. Then I can go to that and talk to it maybe.
Yeah, the justification part on each sheet.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like, was the question, some are filled and some are not filled, and
Exactly. And like there's one that has the stormwater and drainage improvement. So on that one, the justification says the project is necessary because the existing infrastructure is aging, rusted, and sinkholes are forming, which threaten the foundation of local businesses. So that really tells me what the importance of this project. And so I really like that they had that. But I noticed that a lot of them did not include that.
yeah, so I guess the question is, why do some have and some do not have the justification part filled out box?
Yeah, let me find one to go to. I'm going through them right now, and I'm looking for ones that don't have a justification, so I can see the example. Because I do know some justifications are just pure mandate, and it's and some are developed with interviews with the city and city needs. So I'm just talking about the various examples of cities I've worked on for CIP. So I'm trying to find one right now that doesn't have a justification. So let me just find one so I can see which subject it is. Since I worked more on some of the water related CIPs. On my list here for the version I have, I don't have any that don't have a justification. So maybe I'm just wondering if are you referring to maybe a previous draft version, or is this maybe we can talk about one.
Ron, while you're looking for that, so from what I understand on these CIPs, it can depend on the priority of the project. So, for instance, I'm looking at one right now that is for the senior center improvements. This one is listed, has a priority listing of desirable. And so much of this detailed form is not filled out. But as this project rolls on and as time moves on, this project detail form will be filled out by city staff, mostly in the public works management or the finance department. As expenditures are made on these, they would be updated on this form, and on the on the spreadsheet from which the form is generated. And so for the justification, the project description, and the general plan consistency, some of those items can be added as the justification is revealed, right? And so, for another example, what Commissioner Horwitz was talking about earlier was the downtown area paving or something, wasn't it?
No, there was some that just didn't have it, so that's what
Okay.
was my question.
Okay,
I
well,
have
so some of them
here.
do, some of them don't,
Yes.
but as the jobs increase in their priority level from desirable to necessary to mandate, the reason why you would upgrade those from desirable would be the justification, right? Like, for instance, the tertiary wastewater treatment would be mandated at some point based on the requirements of the new NPDES permit, right? So that would be a justification in there for that. And some of these just don't have any justification because they're merely desirable.
Okay.
So that would be why.
Commissioner Holberts, do you have if you look in the top right corner where it says project number, do you have one, because I can't find any that don't have a justification.
There's some
yeah.
of them here, I already found some of them on the
CS
screen.
009?
Yeah,
See, what is it?
ST-036. And then on the civic facilities too.
Okay. Can you write those down?
Yeah, let me, I'm trying to zoom down to those.
Commissioner Sanders answered my question, it's just that why did you not, why was that missing? So he did answer it.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Now, I have another question. What happens to projects that do not make the CIP program?
Can you repeat, don't make the CIP what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said at the end.
So what happens to projects that don't make the CIP? So say, for instance, you have some, but they don't qualify, you choose not to have them on this plan. What happens to them? Do you have like an area that's limbo, or what happens to them?
I don't know, Ryan. I know not all of them made the list. I think they're kind of in staff's brains. I don't know that we have an official list of, projects that were talked about but didn't make the list. I'm not sure if that's something we have, but certainly.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Ryan.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I would say my particular, that's a good question, but I think that generally it's back to the squeaky wheel is what gets the oil. And you have the city, the public works, the engineering department, manager, the county, everyone has there's a lot of moving parts about what people know to be priorities, and I think they get developed, really together. And if something really didn't make the cut, maybe it wasn't prioritized by everyone enough to really, make it. It doesn't mean it's not as important or otherwise. I'm definitely not saying that, but I think that sometimes projects will make it on the next one, or a few years down the line, it becomes obvious that there's a project that really needs to happen, and I think it gets prioritized. So I think it's kind of not a very detailed answer, but that's about as good as I can answer that question, I think.
Yeah, our goal is to review this annually, so there is an opportunity if some of these
Yeah.
projects fall off or something rises to the top to be, amended and included in the plan.
And that was one of the questions I had. So right now, we have these projects here. And how do they get removed from the CIP? I know that once they're completed, they'll drop off. But if they're here and all of a sudden, how do you remove them? Or is it because they're obsolete, or they're just not?
Yeah,
how do you remove them?
Yeah, I understand. It would be part of that annual review process, and that would really it would come from staff, the people who know these projects the most, saying, this one really maybe isn't as important as this other one, and let's amend the plan to reflect that. So we're counting heavily on our staff to tell us what projects are needed and should be prioritized, and I certainly you know, that is something that will change as we review it annually. I don't think we bring it to the planning commission annually for the consistency determination, but I think we need to do that for its initial adoption.
And then, one other question is, so say for instance, you have a project here, and I wanted to follow it and see how things are going. What would I need to do? What subcommittees would I have to attend, or what is the process for that?
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess I don't have a great answer for you other than, you know, you're going to see these projects come forward as, you know, following the city council. You will see, you know, awards to bid, things like that going on the city council. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. We did just implement our OpenGov suite of software, web-based, which allows you to follow the budget very closely on almost like a daily basis to see the total. And I don't know if that an option could be to include these. A lot of these are pretty stagnant. A lot of these are really big projects that I would envision people would know about when we start talking about them at the council level and, you know, awarding bids and things like that. But let me think about that and think of a way, you know, that these could be elevated so that people could track them readily.
Thank you.
No, so I would just recommend throwing it onto our city manager's little letter. Some of this stuff can be mentioned
Oh, and our weekly update.
in
Yeah,
the weekly
yeah.
updates. 'Cause
Well, if we're doing one of these big projects, we're
Well,
going
the
to
big
do our
ones all
best.
get-
We're going to do our best to make sure everybody knows about it.
yeah, the big ones for sure, but like the Girl Scout parking in the building, you know,
Yeah.
or the rehab that the Boy Scouts shed just had, things like that. You know, they make the paper, but not everybody reads the paper. So
No, it's a great point, Chair Shanahan. We do try to capture when we're making positive improvements, and some of those might be projects in the CIP.
yeah, they're in the CIP, but they're not real big targets that we do get some accomplishments.
Yeah, it really depends on the different cities' needs and the size of the city. Yeah, I've got several going right now, even just locally, and the cities handle them different ways. Sometimes they'll just do little posts on their city website, but also I end up right now I'm sitting in as staff engineer and city engineer really for the city of Sebastopol in the interim until they get their engineering department back together again, and they handle it, and that we end up fielding sometimes, you know, questions from the public, for both DPW and for engineering, and then sometimes stuff can be posted on the city website just to give progress updates, because people want to know, hey, you know, like you said, with paving and stuff, and it's affecting everybody, and they're just like, can we finally get the one-way, you know, traffic to go away? When are you going to be done? Kind of stuff. So it definitely helps to have little bits of public information that can be posted that doesn't have to be fielded as a question on a phone call, you know, individually, but it just depends on the city too and what you need.
Thank you. Any other commissioners?
I have a question, or actually a comment. This would be, this is Commissioner Sanders, by the way. So I'm looking at the summary of the streets improvements, and what I mean, this is kind of irrelevant for right now, but what I don't see on here is that it has a note for would be a pavement management program that I would have thought would have been included, as well as a management program for the sidewalks that the city is responsible for on Cloverdale Boulevard.
If I can, I'd be happy to address that. That's a great question, Commissioner. I think your question gets to, as you asked, pavement management is really considered a maintenance item. And, you know, part of what really the reflection of this document is, you know, capital improvements. So it gets back to a determination on what kind of project that you include in the CIP program. Typically, maintenance projects aren't always included in the CIP because of they're more maintenance oriented rather than necessarily improvement oriented. But it sometimes comes down to a determination by engineering staff or public works staff on how you want to characterize a particular project. For example, we are about ready to undertake what we're calling the 4th Street Rehabilitation Project. That really is a reconstruction of and intended to address the decaying pavement. One could call it, well, it's pavement management, but because in the nature of the work that's necessary and the repair work, it really almost rises to a level of a reconstruction project, and then we might qualify that for the capital improvement program. Where if you're just doing patching, for example, that tends to fall under kind of an annual maintenance program, and it's kind of a discretionary decision as to whether you want to include that type of project in your CIP to show like an annual commitment. So if you have like an annual program where you fund it, say, there's certain jurisdictions in Sonoma County that say put $1 million every year towards pavement management, they may have a CIP that shows that, right? Whereas, a small city like Cloverdale, where we don't have a well-defined program, it kind of happens as funding becomes available. We may not identify it as a capital improvement. So it's kind of how you describe the particular projects. So the CIP isn't necessarily a comprehensive document for all activities of the city, but really does intend to capture, what we call the major capital improvements versus say maybe maintenance. But again, it can become a name game very quickly.
I was just thinking that if you had included that in here, you would be able to open projects for, let's say, a certain amount of footage per year for grind and pave. Let's say you put, I don't know, take a number, $500,000, $1 million, whatever it is, toward grind and pave. So, depending on what the prices are, maybe you could do X amount of feet, right? 1,000 feet or 1,500 feet of grind and pave back. Where that would be more or less a blanket project that you could essentially bill that to instead of bringing that out of your operational budget for the year. So, but I understand what you're saying. It's just kind of a judgment call.
And
Thank you.
and I did see that in different cities. When I was looking at different cities, they actually had a section for that, for the maintenance on the streets.
The city does not partner with, currently does not partner with the county on paving projects, though the city council, when the county was updating their strategic plan, their 5-year strategic plan recently, the county did ask for opportunities for collaboration with the cities. And I think we've entered a new era where we realize there's tremendous benefits in working together. And that was one of the areas that was identified where the city could collaborate with the county is on some pavement rehabilitation, pavement management projects, especially where the county may have projects that abut city boundaries. What comes to mind maybe most recently was Hot Springs Road. There was some pavement literally up to the city boundaries. And it kind of stopped at the boundaries, and it would have been a tremendous opportunity to leverage those resources and pave the remaining portion of Hot Springs Road and get that done, because it comes with quite an extra effort for the city to get the remainder paved. Just to get the bid specs out, go through the procurement process, get the equipment on site, and insurance and bonds and all that. Whereas if we would have just done it once, we could have paid the county, and, you know, and there would have been some efficiency and cost savings to get that work done. But those are opportunities that we're definitely exploring, is how we can collaborate and work together with our county partners.
And every year, the county goes out to bid for their paving, every year. So if we have like a small section, we could get an agreement with the county, and that way, that year, we can go ahead and include it. We don't have to worry about the bidding process or anything like that. We'll just add it, and it's just an agreement between the city and the county. Because that would save us a huge amount of money, because like you just said, you know, they're doing it in bulk, and we just have a small section. So we could take advantage of that cost savings.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Oh, anything,
Who to talk to.
I do have an item that kind of stuck out to me. I noticed on the traffic signal improvements, ST037, which is, it says, this project will provide traffic signal improvements and synchronized lights at the following intersections: South Cloverdale Boulevard and Santana Drive, South Cloverdale Boulevard and Treadway Drive, which aren't those the lights that just got up and running? Why would we need to spend another $810,000 on them?
Yeah, it's the same as the Fourth Street. This has been in the works for so long that it's been in there, even though some of these projects are actually either underway or completed.
Mhm.
So, I mean, when we update it, we'll take that out or show it as completed. So it's just, again, it's been in the works for 2 years, so it's projects that are, or some of them have already started.
Yeah, it's showing it in the years, in 25 and 26, so it was like,
Yeah, we'll change that.
is this?
Yeah. Anything, Commissioner Cox?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. So our job here is, you know, look at this and make sure it's fitting our general plan, and look for any things that's glaring that really doesn't fit where we're going. And I don't see anything, I haven't seen anything that's out there. Everybody's good, we're on the same page. This is, you know. Okay.
When did you say these items would be completed, like the funding sources? Or does that happen like when you're actually gonna get started?
When you do.
Okay, August.
Right. A lot of them do not include funding sources, so.
Yeah, you know, a lot of this stuff will, if grant money comes along, or, you know, somebody bequeaths property or something, you know, it's just, you know, dog park, all of a sudden, somebody gives us a couple acres, you know, things will happen, but right now, we just have to keep them in the plan.
It's important to have them in the plan too, so when grant funding does come along, then at least we said we've considered this project, the council has adopted a plan containing the project, so it helps in that way too.
Yeah. So, any additional comment? Okay, if there is none, I'd like to ask for somebody to make a motion for resolution number 008-2021. Mr. Spangler, you can vote on this.
Okay, so, this is Commissioner Sanders. I move to approve the resolution of the City of Cloverdale Planning Commission making a finding of consistency with the general plan for the fiscal year 2022 through 2027 capital improvement program. CIP.
Yeah, could I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Spangler, seconding. Get a roll call, please?
Let's see. Commissioner Sanders,
Aye.
Commissioner Waggy, still absent. Vice Chair Holbert,
Aye.
Chair Shanahan.
Aye.
Okay.
And Commissioner Spangler?
Commissioner Sprinkler.
Spangler.
Aye.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Okay, thank you. So that moves us on. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
No problem. Thank you.
It moves us on to other business, which we have none, which moves on to planners report communications.
Okay, well, we are planning a November meeting. It's November 2nd. It's going to be the Alexander Valley Apartments on Asti Road. So we've been working on that with, Rafael's been working through the project. We've gotten all the comments and conditions from all the departments, so it is ready to go. And that will be a design review for the Planning Commission to consider. We haven't received any new applications, so we're still working on some of the ones that have been around for a while. Vista Oaks, you may recall that one that's up here on the north side. We have been talking to them a little bit, trying to work through some of the infrastructure issues that are associated with that project. I don't know where it's going, but they still are required to do the precise development plan, and that would be before the Planning Commission if they choose to move forward with that project. That's about it. What, do we have anything else that's forgetting?
Yeah, no new projects submitted, just, I might have mentioned a couple months ago, we did have a new, application for a new gas station behind, the Sinclair on the empty lot, at the end of the cul-de-sac there. It's been incomplete essentially since it was submitted, but I imagine that will come to the Planning Commission at some point for design review. That's really the only quote-unquote major one, I guess, that is incomplete right now, that might come to the Planning Commission sooner than later.
And then in terms of our long-range planning efforts, we're just about to take the contract from Four Leaf, our consultant for the housing element. So we've been talking about that for a couple of years. You guys will finally get involved with an actual housing element. We're still working on our downtown and TOD planning updates with our consultant Placeworks. They've come up with a number of suggested changes to those zoning districts, which will be coming before the Planning Commission. Our local hazard mitigation plan, thank you for all your help on that one. That was going to the council on November 10th. I know I'm forgetting something, but there's a lot of plans going on. Oh, the South Cloverdale infrastructure study, which has also been in the works for a couple of years, is getting closer, and that's going to really, give us an idea of what's going to be needed to serve the south end of town. Thank you for all your help on the Dry Creek Rancheria project. You guys had some great comments. That's going to be going to the City Council for consideration on October, I think it's the 27th. I think that's it. We're really busy. There's a lot of long-range planning efforts as well as current planning projects going. So
One kind of fun thing, I think, maybe I think it's fun, but where the city's partners with, or is in a group with, it's called the Sonoma/Napa ADU Accelerator. Essentially, as most of the cities and city jurisdictions in Napa and Sonoma County collaborating on ADUs. Essentially, they kind of, it's a third party essentially that can help people with. It's a place that a lot of cities can direct to their website. They can help answer questions just about how much costs and building, and they came up with an ADU calculator. But recently, what we've been working on is like standard plans. So it's one thing that the state would like a lot of jurisdictions to do, but so someone can just kind of come in and essentially pick plans off a shelf, for lack of a better term, that are essentially pre-approved. They've been through a building permit process, really. So it would reduce a lot of the cost and probably time and effort just thinking about, well, how do I build an ADU? So just recently, I've been spending some time reviewing some plans to help on that process. So hopefully soon. It's not something that will become to the Planning Commission. It's we already have ADU regulations, and this will just be something that it'll be plans that will meet our jurisdiction setbacks and heights, and because it's ADUs are there's a lot of state laws around them now. A lot of them, a lot of the regulations are kind of jurisdiction wide or
cross jurisdiction-wide. So that enables us to create plans like this that'll fit, Napa County or Sonoma County or Santa Rosa or Cloverdale, Healdsburg, or wherever. So yeah, I've been reviewing some of the plans, and some of them look really nice. So yeah, that's something that should be in the works soon, and whenever we do, we'll have that on our website and available in the office, I imagine, too. So just wanted to give you that little update.
On the ADUs, are we gonna tie into the grant money available websites from the state now as well? Because they just passed that $100 million grant.
Are you talking about one of the ones that's included in the housing bills that the governor signed
Yeah, I
recently?
just signed it for the ADUs, so if we're gonna have a tie.
Is that part of the SB 8, 9, and 10, or is that a different one?
Yeah, it's part of that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'll have to look into that part.
yeah, because there is a grant portal now for people who want to get grant money for ADUs.
Thank you.
So,
I'm sure the collaboration knows about it, but I will look into
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Okay. We have anything else from staff? Commissioners? I just have one question. Our little water app calculator, is that still in the works, or?
It is, we're planning to, are you talking about the calculator that will determine yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be able to bring that, it's pretty much done, we're doing a few more tweaks. I'm hoping to get that to you before the end of the year.
Okay,
I think the next meeting's gonna be kind of long on the one topic that we're gonna be looking at, so I don't know if that would be a good one, but
yeah,
we can shoot for December, and we can get the engineer put it together to give us a demonstration, and, yeah.
yeah, good. Anything else from commissioners? Yes.
Pardon me. This Saturday, October 9th, is the end of my 2-year term as alternate commissioner, and it's also the end of 14 years of working for the city of Cloverdale in some capacity or other, and I will not continue. I find that definitely the Planning Commission is in very good hands. I'm very impressed, and it's a pleasure and honor to work with you all. So, but this will be my last meeting, and I certainly have enjoyed it immensely. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
It's been good serving with you over these years.
We went on together, remember that? Some years back.
Okay, anything else from commissioners?
You should have told us, Bob. We would have had a cake.
Yeah, no, thanks. I don't need a cake. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to adjourn to our next meeting, November 2nd, 6:30.
Right.
Thank you.
Good luck to you all.